Now on BBC News, it's Dateline London.
Inside the unregulated homes failing to protect our most vulnerable children.
It was a literal hellhole. Living here was a punishment.
Our year-long investigation hears stories of abuse, exploitation and despair.
How many times did you attempt to take your life?
I think about 3 times.
That is actually disgusting. No one should ever lay their hand on someone like that.
People bringing in acids, knives, samurai swords, everything. That house was basically just a drug deal house, but I had to live there because I couldn't go nowhere else.
We reveal the caravans and holiday homes being used to house our most vulnerable children. Speak to a worker who witnessed failures.
And that was it. That was the last time I saw her.
Trafficked, gone.
Yeah, gone.
And ask what needs to change.
It's not a loophole, it's a scandal. If action isn't taken on the back of this programme, then we're colluding in letting groomers, predatory paedophiles go after those children.
I was in my care home at a semi-independent place and a car come up on the drive. Didn't know who it was. And then a bag got put over my head, got flung in the boot, got taken to a random house out in the country, got flannels put over my face, got waterboarded, got stripped, got beaten. I was stabbed once in my shoulder and twice in my leg. When I got let go, I was laying on the road dying.
Kidnapped while in care. This is the story of young people in unregulated homes, often called semi-independent accommodation, mainly for those in or leaving the care system. This teenager is 17 and has been in care since the age of 5. For the past 2 years, he's been in unregulated homes. Most weeks he goes missing, often to sell drugs.
I was going missing every day for like months on end.
Did the unregulated home have your phone number?
Yeah.
Were they ringing you?
No.
How easy was it for you to get involved in county lines drug dealing?
Easy.
If you live in an unregulated home, checks are only made by councils and not a regulator. This teenager was repeatedly exploited by drug gangs.
I'll be at one place, they will take me to another place.
To sell heroin,
Yeah.
crack cocaine. Why didn't you say no?
They said, if you say no, you're going to get killed or your family's getting killed.
Our figures indicate the number of times young people have gone missing from unregulated homes has more than doubled in the last 3 years.
All the money I got from doing it, I was using it to get home.
Despite growing up in central London, he was sent to live in an unregulated home hundreds of miles away in North Wales.
There was no family around me, I had no friends. Everyone was coming up to me because they knew I weren't from the area. Can you do this for us? Can you do that? Because you ain't known around here. 2 months in being there, I lost my mum. When I lost my mum, they didn't try to arrange to go to the funeral, so I didn't get to go to my mum's funeral. The care system made me, social services and the government made me just feel like I didn't want to be around no more.
Did you try and take your life?
I've tried a couple times.
What was going through your mind?
That I want to see my mum for a last time and I could get out of this world where no one cares about me.
We've been told these pictures show young people in unregulated homes with weapons and drugs. We found out more than 50 people were sexually abused or exploited after going missing last year. Our information requests also revealed that around 1 in 6 missing episodes features a young person already known to be at risk of child sexual exploitation. We've learned that some children in care under the age of 16 are staying in caravans, narrowboats and holiday homes. The care regulator in England says it's entirely legal for an unregulated home to accommodate children like this if they offer support and not care, short holiday breaks or a mobile like a narrowboat. But we've heard of loopholes being exploited. Here, near Blackpool, care children would spend up to 4 weeks in one caravan before being moved to another in the same park to try to get around rules governing short-term placements.
What was happening?
In a different case, a 15-year-old girl was placed in 8 unregulated homes by Dorset Council, run by a number of companies, including at this holiday home.
She picked the knife up and started waving it round in front of my face. Just didn't want to be here. An absolute nervous wreck, you know, she was upset. The 2 carers then started explaining why she's here, to be assessed and all that, and I said, well, you can't be here, this is not for that.
Dorset Council says the girl was moved so much because there aren't enough registered placements to support children with very complex needs.
She described it as a prison. One of her sad words to us was, wouldn't it be nice to wake up with the same faces instead of getting different carers in every other day? What I witnessed that night will stay with me for some time on that.
Where's the next home?
The vast majority of residents in unregulated homes are over the age of 16.
It's about halfway down, isn't it?
A year ago, we were told that vulnerable teenagers were being badly failed while living in many unregulated homes. But multiple people mentioned one company in particular.
What's the name of the one we're going to now?
Young people from 6 different council areas were placed in these homes,
Just over here.
designed to provide support and not care. Many were children in care who had faced some of the most challenging home lives imaginable, including childhood abuse and family tragedy.
This one here?
Yeah.
This is where she lived.
We obtained this confidential briefing sent around councils with claims of serious safeguarding failings in homes in Essex and London run by a company called Centurion Care. We set out to find the young people affected.
It was horrendous. Drug taking, motorbikes being stolen, girls being taken out by policemen early hours of the morning. Kids would come running up here and run round the block.
We've learned police were conducting surveillance on this home for young people caught up with criminal gangs.
I saw them dealing drugs over the back wall. I'd heard the boys selling cocaine.
Selling cocaine from a care home?
Yeah. It's like they had their own operation on the second floor. They used to have baggies and little scales, and there was a lot of supplies.
Scales?
Yeah, like how...
To weigh cannabis?
Yeah.
To sell cocaine?
Yeah, they're not measuring flour.
While other vulnerable people lived inside.
I used to live on this top floor.
Carla spent years in foster homes before being sent to Centurion Care.
I would not recommend it for anybody to live here. So my self-harm would be quite severe. There was a situation where it'd been really bad and I'd lost a lot of blood. And I went down to the member of staff and I was like, you need to take me to the hospital. And they were like, no, I can't leave the boys unattended.
Refusing to take you to hospital?
Yeah, he was like, oh, you should just go walk to the shop.
She says she was taken to a pharmacy an hour later. Inside the home, her mental health deteriorated.
They knew I had issues with depression and anxiety. It was on paper, they were constantly reminded. I took 20 paracetamol in one go in an evening.
How many times did you attempt to take your life?
I think about 3 times.
Centurion Care told us it was only aware of one incident where Carla overdosed, and on one occasion she was taken to hospital. All of their homes had first aid kits, incidents were recorded and sent to social workers, and they cooperated with police, installing CCTV to prevent drug dealing.
I keep calling it a care home, but it's just a house where people profit from young, vulnerable children.
Up there on the left.
We then moved to another Centurion care home, 2 miles away, where they looked after a boy with learning disabilities.
That one. Yeah. There's the camera.
And we obtained this. A recording outside the home showing the child in the yellow shirt, in distress, lashing out. Police were called here to an allegation of an assault by a boy on a worker. We can't be sure what led up to this, but watch how the worker responds. Tia was also a resident at the time.
That would have probably scared the life out of him. He looks like an older boy, like he's tall, he's quite big and bulky, but when you talk to him, you can tell it's like talking to a 5-year-old child. Like, they're supposed to be looking after the child, not attacking the child with special needs. That is just vile.
What would that have done?
That would have probably scared the life out of him. That would scare the life out of me if I had someone do that to me, and with someone with his disability.
What else did staff members do to him?
They used to swear, scream in his face, tell him that they were going to take his balloons away. Balloons was like just his thing. Like, he loved them. Like, coming with cars, princesses, everything. Like, there was not one balloon he did not have. And they just used to take them, pop them, sit there threatening with them, threatening with police, saying, "Oh, well, if you don't put your plate in the sink, I'm calling the police."
And what was his reaction when that happened?
He was absolutely petrified. He'd grab his head, he'd pace, he'd be like, "No, I ain't done nothing wrong." He'd go to cry, he'd be like, "I ain't done nothing, I don't need it." He would rush to do whatever they wanted him to do.
Centurion Care told us police were given CCTV. No one was charged with an offence, and they weren't aware of any allegation of bullying on this boy. We spent weeks trying to track down someone who knew the children involved. One worker agreed to meet us and talk.
They were all very high risk.
Andy was a support worker across many of the homes.
Sexual exploited kids, drugs and alcohol abuse, some that had disabilities, all in one roof.
He wanted to take us to this house.
She was taken by people, brought back maybe. She wasn't even brought back, to be fair.
He seemed most shocked about what happened here. Andy remembers a girl who regularly went missing.
I just saw a bunch of boys in a car, and she just jumped in, really. And
from this spot?
From this spot, literally right here. And that was it. That was the last time I saw her.
Trafficked, gone?
Yeah, gone.
Days later, he managed to reach the teenager on his phone.
She just sounds really scared. Like, she wasn't talking. She was like, I've asked her where she is, or where are you, when are you coming back, sort of thing. She's just like, "Listen, I can't talk right now," and then she started whispering. As she started whispering, I've heard like a voice, like someone shouting at her. Person's obviously come closer. It seems like she's been hit, and that the phone dropped, so I can't hear too much, but I can just hear shouting.
She was missing for more than a week before being found in the Midlands.
Police ended up finding her. All sorts happened.
There's no suggestion Centurion Care staff were involved in her trafficking. It took months to find out who she was and where she now lived.
A lot of people go through things where, like, the care system, where it's just, they give up. You're alone.
What was the impact on you being taken like that?
A bad impact. It was the worst. Yeah. No one deserves that.
Like many children in care, she was placed in a home outside of a local authority.
I didn't have no friends or anything, so, like, because I was far away from, like, I mean, Basildon is not an area that I know I'm familiar with. I was always just running away, trying to get away from the home, trying to get away from the environment.
What were you hoping it would be?
Just like a fresh start, so I can just move on and then get my own home, just start a fresh life.
She says she was also sexually abused by a young person in the home.
Did the staff members phone the police?
No.
Did the staff members remove the boys from the home who had been hurting you?
No, they just told me that me and the guy were in a relationship. They told me that that's what I wanted.
Centurion Care told us all staff had safeguarding training, missing person procedures were followed, and they had no record of a sexual assault allegation.
How do you sum up your experience?
Appalling. Whoever did what they did, someone needs to pay a price for the pain.
During our investigation, we also heard stories of vulnerable children exposed to weapons, drugs and organised crime.
A lot of drug dealing, people bringing in acid.
This teenager also lived in a home run by Centurion Care.
Knife, samurai swords, everything. I don't know how they even get it past all the cameras.
Terrified, he'd lock himself in his room.
How do you know it was acid in the bottle?
Because I opened it up and smelt it and it burnt my nose.
What was your reaction when that happened?
I nearly dropped the old bottle up the floor.
And what did you do?
Put it down, went straight into my room and barricaded my door because I didn't feel safe.
He says strangers were coming and going from the home.
The boy with the samurai sword actually didn't live there. He turned up with one of the boys that lived there, and that's when he pulled it out on the table and I see it as the door was open.
What did you see?
The samurai sword.
How big was it?
Probably about 9-10 inches probably. Every 10 minutes the door's going, like going straight in and out, going round the corner, doing their drug deals or whatever, and then coming straight back. So that house was basically just a drug deal house. But I had to live there because I couldn't go nowhere else.
Centurion Care told us they worked with police and neighbours to prevent drug dealing, and any young person who smoked cannabis in the placement was asked to leave. Of the 8 young men whose stories we've followed in Centurion Care, we've learned that 4 were sent or have returned to prison since leaving the homes.
Emmanuel, hello there.
One family agreed to let us talk to their son inside prison.
That was a difficult time there. I wasn't really being fed properly.
Fed?
Yeah.
You weren't eating inside there?
Yeah, I was basically starving myself. I was on £52 a week to get me to probation and other things like that. So once I've spent that money, there's no other way to buy food. There were some days I couldn't eat nothing.
Like many unregulated homes, it's down to the young person to manage their finances and food. Emmanuel repeatedly disappeared because he was involved in county lines drug dealing.
Basically, got taken to another area to sell drugs.
How did they get to you in the home? How did they find you in Basildon?
Through other people.
Could you have said no?
Not really.
Did you ever ask the staff inside Centurion Care for help?
I've never asked them that because I didn't feel like they could help me the way I needed to be looked after.
Emmanuel was jailed for possession with intent to supply heroin and crack cocaine. Centurion Care said they felt all children were safe and secure across their placements. Working for Centurion Care was Andy's first job with young people.
A lot of bad things were happening there, so I didn't feel too good about what was happening, so I wasn't too happy.
He told us at times he felt hopeless.
It was completely out of control. Absolute manic, wild. Like, some people had drugs in the house. There was some people that ended up having, like, you know, large amount of cash. And there was nothing you could have really done about it because other staff members didn't do anything about it.
This confidential council briefing we've obtained on Centurion Care says some workers were known to police for arrests that didn't lead to charges. Centurion Care says it's not aware of these disclosures on any of the workers' enhanced DBS checks, which were available at every local authority inspection, and no concerns were raised. Essex Police was unable to tell us when this police involvement was discovered and whether it should have been revealed to Centurion Care on the DBS checks.
Her vulnerability was quite high.
Andy says another girl reported being taken from one of the homes, given alcohol and drugs, before having sex with a man who occasionally worked in the home. Police said there was not enough evidence any crime was committed. The confidential briefing says the man had several convictions and had been previously investigated but not charged for an alleged sex offence involving a child. Centurion Care said the contractor didn't need to be DBS checked. His role was known to the local authority, they cooperated with the police, and there was no further action. Thurrock Council placed many of the children inside the homes. It said it was unable to comment on police matters or individual cases. The homes were closed in 2017 and the company dissolved when an investigation was launched into organised and complex abuse facing children living there.
In and out, going around the corner, doing their drug deals or whatever, and then coming straight back. So that house was basically just a drug deal house.
I am outraged. I'm outraged and upset in equal measure about what I've just seen.
Dame Louise Casey led an investigation into Rotherham Council after hundreds of children were sexually exploited in the town.
It's a scandal. I want those homes regulated.
How urgent is that?
Tomorrow. The shame is that it's taken the BBC, the same way it was in Rotherham, it took the media to lift the lid on it and say to the government, this is what you should be doing something about.
This story goes beyond one provider, city or council. Dame Louise fears young people are not being protected across unregulated homes.
And you are exposing their voices, which I can only hope means that it's listened to in a different way. It's time for Whitehall to wake up to this. It's a disgrace. If action isn't taken on the back of this programme, then we're colluding in letting groomers, predatory paedophiles go after those children. And that's our responsibility, and that's why I find it so upsetting.
Fam, you could be running a full-on crack operation in a care home and wouldn't no one know anything.
Some of the young people we spoke to across the year had positive experiences, but most wanted the care system to change.
What should happen to these homes?
They need to be watched more. They need to have inspectors and professional people who actually know what they're doing, going in there, checking there, and regulating the thing.
I thought being in care would give me some sort of childhood. They're saying that they're there to support you. It's a lie. It's a recruiting game. They're going to put kids into homes. They're going to get recruited. The same stuff's going to keep going on.
There are more than 5,000 children and young people living in unregulated homes across England and Wales. Tonight, on average, 30 will go missing. The Association of Directors of Children's Services says unregulated homes can provide appropriate and flexible options, but it recognises and shares the concern that this is not always the case. The government repeatedly declined to be interviewed, but said councils have a legal duty to make sure accommodation for these children is suitable.
You keep calling it a care home, but it's just a house where people profit from young, vulnerable children.
I never really had any support. All I had was basically a bed.
Everyone that was involved and whoever did what they did, someone needs to pay a price for the pain.
Across England and Wales, there's been more than a dozen so-called organised and complex abuse investigations into failures to protect children in unregulated homes. The stories of those children are unlikely to ever be heard.